Welcome to today's Trade Talk Go France, a 90-minute market introduction into the French market for companies seeking to expand into France. My name is Helen Sundqvist. I work as the communication manager at Norrbotten Chamber of Commerce, and we are the hosts of today's webinar. Before we begin, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about Norrbotten Chamber of Commerce. We're a private independent business organization owned and financed by our members. We have around 330 member companies. Together, they employ around 29,000, and they have a combined annual turnover of 132 billion Swedish crowns. We are the northernmost of the 11 national chambers. We work to create prosperous conditions that promote business growth in our region. As such, a major part of what we do is to advocate to ensure decision makers prioritize investments that enable growth in our region. We provide a network for companies and also help with B2B matchmaking. In addition, part of what we do is help companies internationalize, and TradeTalks is part of that work. We work primarily within three focus areas, which is infrastructure, international trade, skills, and human capital. For those of you unfamiliar, Norrbotten is located at the top of Arctic Europe. We border both Finland and Norway. Our interconnectedness does matter. Our infrastructure matters. Norrbotten has a resource-based economy. We produce a lot of goods, and goods must be transported in and out. With the green transition that my colleague Sabrina will tell you more about in a little bit, we see major investments in green and sustainable industries, totaling around 1,000 billion Swedish crowns. We also see an internationalization of our home market. And we also see a lot of international companies coming to Norrbotten. Just to give you some quick stats, around 65% of the total raw material export originate from Norrbotten. 90% of the iron ore used in Europe is extracted here in Norrbotten. And 50% of the total tonnage transported on railroads is transported on Malmbanan, Luleå, Kiruna, Narvik. I know that many of you listening might be unfamiliar with the region, so here's a little movie to show you more about, give you an insight into life in Norrbotten.
Do you remember when we used to run away through the night? There is a story about us two, and it's written about me and you. Nothing can bring us down, 'cause we are together now. Not even time can stop us now, 'cause we are forever young. Do you remember how we used to run against the morning sun? Nothing can bring us down, 'cause we are together now. Not even time can stop us now, 'cause we are forever young. Nothing can bring us down, 'cause we are together now. Nothing can bring us down, 'cause we are together now.
Oh, there you go. A quick little insight into life in Norrbotten. Today, we are here for Trade Talks France. As I said, it's a 90-minute market introduction to the French market. Trade Talks by Swedish Chambers is a joint initiative by all the regional chambers of commerce in Sweden. It's a webinar series with experienced experts from our global chamber network. Through Trade Talks, you will get access to the latest updates and analysis on current markets. The webinars are held with relevant market experts, as well as companies that can provide insights, experience, and lessons learned from respective markets. Before we begin, some formalities. This webinar is obviously held in English. It's being recorded so that you can access it at a later time. It will be published on our website, and we will have subtitles in Swedish. Please keep your mic and camera off, but we do encourage you to ask questions, but please do so in the chat. So France. France is one of the world's 10th largest economies, offers vast business opportunities for Swedish companies, particularly in the tech sector. France is a very important trade partner to Sweden, and a lot of Swedish companies and subsidiaries are already present in the French market. Today's speakers, who you will meet in a little bit, is Katarina Löf from the Swedish French Chamber of Commerce. It's Charlotte Loyot-Kahn at Scandi Bureau, and Fredrik Edström from Libby France, which is the equivalent of Kry in Sweden. But before you get to meet all our speakers, I will hand over to my colleague, Sabrina, and she will tell you a little bit more about Norrbotten.
You. Hi, everyone. Bonjour. Nice to have you here today to talk about the French market. My name is Sabrina Suiki. I am the International Business Manager at the Norrbotten Chamber of Commerce, and I would like to tell a little bit more about what is happening in Norrbotten and around international trade before we go to the market opportunities in France. As many of you perhaps knows, we have a lot of green sustainable transition happening not only in the northern parts of Sweden, but also in northern parts of Finland and Norway, as we call it, the Arctic Europe. It is a northern sparsely populated areas, but we are very well known for communicating and cooperating a lot, even though we have long distances to each other. We have investments of a total around 1,450 billion kronor coming up to the northern parts of Sweden. That is 1,050 of those are coming to the Norrbotten area, that is the northernmost area, and 400 to Västerbotten, that is the next one just below us up north. Infrastructure is, of course, very important for us up north and also for the international trade. So the cooperation cross borders is also important with both Finland and Norway, and that's why we also today have the Nordic perspective when we are talking about the trade with the French market. Just to illustrate the strength of the Arctic Europe is to show the amount of people living in the northern parts of Finland, Sweden, and Norway. In total, we are around 2.5 million people, but in Norrbotten, we are only 250,000. So if we cooperate in the Nordics and work on a global market, of course, we are also more interested and our companies are more stronger together. Just a couple of words of Norrbotten, that is the northernmost region in Sweden. We are 25% of the area in Sweden, but only 2.5% of the population. We are known for not to be that influenced by the economic changes in Sweden or globally. So often our companies are good in finding new opportunities, even in challenging times. We are also an export-intensive area. So European Union, including France, are important markets, but the largest ones are Germany, Norway, Finland, UK, and US. Just to show a little bit about how the export of goods looks like from Norrbotten, 50% of the total tonnage of goods is transported between Luleå and Narvik in Norway, in the northern part of Sweden. And we are also 65% of the Swedish export of goods of mineral and mining parts. Of course, wood and pulp and paper are also important areas in northern areas, but we also work with metallic goods and components for the automotive sector, for example. During the past years, we have also topped the results of export in Norrbotten. So we are the top one area in exporting goods and have grown a lot even during the pandemic years. Just to give some examples of the companies that work with international trade up north in Norrbotten, we have a lot of companies that have knowledge within sustainability, of course, but also digitalization, process optimization, mining, and transport, for example. On 2022, we were also awarded Export Region of the Year, and that is the part of the reason is, of course, the companies that are good in exporting goods from Norrbotten, but also the fact that we are good in cooperation, as I mentioned earlier, especially with our northern partners in Norway and Finland, and therefore the Nordic perspective also is especially important for our companies when going global from Norrbotten. The key to success for us in Norrbotten, but also in Sweden and Arctic Europe or European Union as a whole, is the coordination, cooperation, and co-planning, especially for us up in the northern sparsely populated areas. The cooperation is key for everything. We are too small in the global context and competence, so to say, otherwise. That's why we also work with international trade cooperation. That is part of the Swedish strategy for trade, investment, and global competitiveness, but also part of the regional development strategy in Norrbotten. So it's not only us at the Chamber that work with the international trade, but we are different companies and organizations that can support our companies with internationalization when in Norrbotten, when coming or going from Norrbotten, so to say. And even on the international trade and business development side, we of course work with global goals and incorporate these in our activities. We offer also internationalization business support that the companies from Norrbotten may seek through our chamber with the EU funding that we have for this international trade cooperation. Norrbotten is, of course, part of the global sustainable value chain, and we are affected by the global context in different ways, not the least the geopolitics and infrastructure that I mentioned earlier, but also the cooperation between the Arctic and Nordic regions, of course. For us, being the export-intensive area, the international trade is, of course, very important, and our role in the Swedish GDP is also very important to remember. What's good for Norrbotten is often good also for the Sweden as a whole. So I would like to show you a film about the transition that is happening right now in Norrbotten. Great. Just some thoughts about what is happening up north in Norrbotten and how we can build a better tomorrow together, and how it also relates to the international trade that goes both ways towards the global markets, but also the international actors coming to the Norrbotten market, so to say. If you have any questions, please contact me or my colleague Helen about Norrbotten or the international trade that we work here with. Our colleagues at the Invest in Norrbotten also work with investment promotion, so we can also connect you to our colleagues there that has done the beautiful film that we just saw. But I would like to go forward and introduce our first guest and speaker, Katarina Löf, that is the Managing Director of Chambre de Commerce Suédoise en France, the Swedish French Chamber of Commerce in France, so to say.
Well, first of all, thank you, Sabina, for the invitation, and thank you to the Swedish Chamber of Commerce in Norrbotten, and thank you to all the Swedish Chambers of Commerce in Sweden for organizing these trade talks. It's very important for us, Swedish Chamber of Commerce out around the world. And especially also thank you for organizing the topic on France today. And thank you for the beautiful images from Norrbotten. I can say that I'm particularly proud to announce that I'm also born in Piteå. So we have also a connection here. I'm Katarina Löf, the Managing Director of the Swedish Chamber of Commerce in France. So today I have the pleasure to introduce you to the market and the business climate in France. Well, it will be an introduction because we only have a slot of 15 minutes. So of course we cannot go to any details. But what I would like to do is to try to give you a picture of a new modern business-friendly country in 15 minutes. So to start with, maybe just some key indicators about the economy. So France's economy resists despite economic uncertainty and a global turbulent geopolitical situation, of course. The effects of geopolitical instability, surging energy prices and inflation are predicted to continue to affect the French economy in 2024. However, it is projected to regain momentum to 1.3% annual GDP growth in 2025. So the French market, we can say, remains rather stable compared to other markets in the European Union. And France continues to attract foreign investments. It's the 7th largest economy in the world and the 2nd in the European Union. The employment rate is currently 7.5%. Last year, in the beginning of 2023, it was a little bit lower, and that was the lowest rate since 1982, in fact. Of course, France has a great market potential in the heart of Europe. In terms of market size, of course, with 68 million inhabitants, but the potential is also due to its geographical situation. And as you can see on the map, in 2 hours reach, you will be able to touch 500 consumers in the heart of Europe. So let's see how France and Sweden are doing business and trade. Well, France is a stable and dynamic business partner for Sweden. France is Sweden's 8th export and 9th import country. The total trade flow between our countries last year was 163.5 billion kronor. Swedish goods exports to France increased by a little bit more than 17% and imports a little bit more than 14%. And as you can see on the diagram in the picture, In fact, during President Macron's first term in between 2017 and 2022, Sweden's export to France increased by 70%. In France, we approximately say that we have 450 Swedish companies, and that corresponds to a little bit more than 100,000 employees. And France is in fact the largest recipient of Swedish investments in Europe. So how do Swedish companies perceive the business climate? The Swedish Chambers International, together with Business Sweden, we conduct a business climate survey on approximately 25 markets all over the world. Here in France, we have just finalized to analyze the results of this year and the reporting. So I will give you some insights from this survey. The survey results confirmed that the confidence in the market remains largely positive. It is slightly less optimistic compared to last year in the face of global economic uncertainty. Key findings of this year include that confidence in the market and profitability remains strong for Swedish companies in France. 80% of the respondents had a neutral or a very good perception of the business climate locally. And 82% of Swedish companies reported a profitable financial performance, and that was an increase with 18% from last year's survey. So in total, 77% of the Swedish companies in France plan to maintain or increase their local investments. 78% underline that consumers consider environmental aspects in their purchasing decisions. And 77% consider that a Swedish brand contributes positively to their business. So that is to say that the Swedish identity and values are an added value for our Swedish companies in France, for sure. So I think you maybe know a little bit about this, but there has been an ongoing strategy from the French government and President Macron since 2017 to reform the country and create a more business-friendly climate. The continued trust in the French market that we saw from the Swedish perspective and side is also reflected in Business France annual report on foreign investments in France. So for the 5th year in row, France is ranked the most attractive country in Europe in terms of foreign direct investments. And France, as I said, is the largest recipient of Swedish investments in Europe. So last year, the country received 28 investment projects from Sweden. So a very dynamic communication campaign and measures have been installed to attract foreign investments and to promote domestic industry also. And this strategy is called Choose France, and recently Make It Iconic, Choose France. So the strategy Choose France is actually structured around 4 major axes of transformation. First of all, a reduction in corporate taxation. Then the transformation of the social model in France, administrative simplification for industrial establishments, and an acceleration of the ecological transition. Another ambitious investment plan is called France 2030, and that is 54 billion euros investment to build France of tomorrow. So France 2030 sets out a double ambition. First of all, it's of course about sustainability and transforming the industry in key sectors such as energy, automotive, aeronautics, and space. And this transformation will go through technological innovation. but it's also about positioning France not only as a player in this field of transformation, but the ambition is to become a leader and take a leading step globally to transform the world of tomorrow. For example, there have been tax credits for investments in green industries, and that is a new tool to drive the green transition, of course. France also have a highly developed infrastructure. For example, Charles de Gaulle Airport is in fact Europe's second largest airport in terms of passengers, and Europe's largest airports when it comes to carriage of goods. France holds also 2 of the 10 largest harbors in Europe, Marseille and Le Havre, as well as a highly developed network of express train and roads. You have a large scope range of incentive for research and development in France. And also, of course, to attract foreign investments, the quality of life is also very important, of course. And as we say in France, il fait bon vivre en France. So I just wanted to point out also that France, like Sweden, is a business powerhouse for tech and innovation. There are a high concentration of large corporations in France, and in 2023, France had 23 companies on the Fortune 500 list, with the Paris region having Europe's highest concentration of Fortune 500 global corporate headquarters. And that is, of course, important in terms of, well, it's beneficial for the startup and innovation ecosystems to create industrial partnerships with large corporations. From a labor market perspective, France has also a very robust supply of skilled laborers and workers with high-level qualifications. For innovation and research and development, of course, France is known as a country of engineers, especially in the field of mathematics and physics. The French industry and economy is also very highly diversified. Of course, we have aerospace, automotive, and nuclear energy representing the 3 largest industry sectors. But there are opportunities for Swedish companies, however, in most of the sector, because it's really diversified and a multi-industry hub, like in AI, food and beverage, life science, of course, fashion and luxury industry, and finance, etc., etc. France also ranked 6th country in the world for patent application, and in 2022, there were a little bit more than 65,000 applications for patents. And just only in the region of Paris, in terms of research and development, you will find 1,200 R&D labs, and that is a little bit more than 20 billion investments per year. You also have 33 Nobel Prize winners and 12,000, a little bit more than 12,000 startups. The region of Paris, they put themselves as the first startup region in Europe. Also beneficial for this ecosystem is some international gatherings within tech and innovation, such as Hello Tomorrow in deep tech, Change Now, that's about innovation for a sustainable planet, and Viva Technology. And of course, we have the world's largest startup hub here in Paris called Station F. This was just to show you, well, the 23 large corporations that I talked about. And to illustrate that really France is a multi-industry hub. Okay, so just quickly, France, to create this favorable ecosystem for innovation, there has also been a massive support from the government to promote the ecosystem for startups, not only for French startups, but also for foreign startups. So there is an ambition from the French government to create a startup nation, and we can actually talk about the French tech revolution. In 2022, there was a record year in France for French startups because the venture capital market show projects for 13.5 billion euros. In 2017, there were 5 unicorns in France, and just 5 years after, we counted 28 unicorns. Well, the new goal from the French government is to create 100 unicorns by 2030. And we have also here in France umbrella organization which aims to promote the French startup and tech ecosystem called La French Tech. So then some words about the Swedish Chamber of Commerce in France, la Chambre de commerce suédoise en France. Our chamber was founded in 1915, and it aims to promote and develop French-Swedish business relations. We are a non-profit organization, private, independent member organization. We are a dynamic platform for all types of French-Swedish companies from all sectors and all sizes. 50% of our activity is financed by our membership fees and 50% of business services. So how do we work to fulfill our mission to promote this French-Swedish business relations? Well, as a Chamber of Commerce, we are organized around 3 main pillars, and that is network, communication, and business services. Yes, of course, we have had the time since 1915 to create a unique business network. It's a network of decision makers within French-Swedish industry, but it's and it's also very diversified. But it's not only decision makers from the industry, but of course from the institutional and public sphere also. So we want to create platforms, physical or digital platforms, to create dialogues, exchange of best practice within business, of course. We also we are located in the heart of Paris, in the 8th arrondissement, where we manage French-Swedish Business Center. And here we have fully equipped offices. We provide corporate domiciliation. We have meeting facilities with a rooftop terrace with a view of over almost all of Paris. So the purpose for this business center is, of course, that our Swedish companies can meet and organize different kinds of corporate events like press release, press conferences, or board meetings, or trainings, etc., etc. And about our communication, because communication is one of our main pillars, of course. Events is important, of course, for us. We are organizing approximately all over 50 events per year. That could be from 100% after work mingle event to a more institutional gathering with over 500 attendees where you have business leaders from both of the countries and representatives from the government, etc. Always in a business, of course, perspective. We have a website with a little bit more than 100 yearly visitors, and we send out a monthly newsletter to a little bit more than 1,300 subscribers. This is just a glimpse of different types of activities that we organize. And we are a member of an international network of the Swedish Chambers all over the world called Swedish Chambers International. And the Swedish Chambers International represent a significant part of Swedish business community outside of Sweden, because you will find Swedish Chambers in, I think it's today, 38 key locations over the world. And we have a common website that I invite you to visit. The Swedish Chamber of Commerce in France has also partnership with 2 scholarships. And I would like just to say two words about this in this context. The first foundation is Stiftelsen Svenska Språkfonden, and the second one is Stiftelsen för Svensk Utlandsungdom. And these 2, in partnership with us, these 2 foundations allows us to welcome 2 trainees per year, young French-Swedish talents that will have the possibility to gain insights in the French business culture. And the second thing is that Stiftelsen Svenska Språkfonden also give scholarships to employees in Swedish companies or organizations in order to improve their French business language and communication. And they can finance a 2-week course in business French and communications in Aix-en-Provence at the school Institut Scandinave. Yes. So if you would like to have more information on these scholarships, you can contact me to have more information about this. So I think that was what I would like to say today, and I will also like to say merci, of course, and feel free to contact me if you want to have one-to-one meeting to discuss more in details how the chamber could assist you with support in France. And I forgot also to say in this context that the French-Swedish business relations are actually also encouraged through a strategic innovation partnership, bilateral innovation partnership agreement that was signed for the first time in 2017, and the latest edition were updated and re-signed during the French state visit to Sweden in end of January 2024. And just one last thing. The 15th of October, we will organize, together with Team Sweden and Team France, a business gathering in Stockholm called the French-Swedish Innovation Forum. So keep your eyes open, or maybe I can also ask Sabrina if she can, in some couple of weeks, send you more information about that. So thank you very much.
Merci, Katarina. Really interesting to hear more about the chamber work in France, and also we're happy to send out the information about the French-Swedish Innovation Day. I have actually been there, and I can recommend attending that event in Stockholm this fall. I would also take the opportunity to mention that the world's first Chamber of Commerce was actually founded in Marseille in France, 1599, and the second one was in Bruges in Belgium, actually only 65 years after that. So French has, or French market has actually been the ones that made it possible for us to have this chamber network internationally, also in other countries. So thank you for that. We will go forward to our next speaker. I would like to present Charlotte Loyo-Khan, that is the general manager and owner of Scandi Bureau, but also our Nordic French business expert in this seminar. And she will talk more about the business culture and our differences between the Nordics and France. So bienvenue, Charlotte.
Hey, merci beaucoup. Thank you for hosting me today. I'm very thankful for that. Maybe I just what Sabrina asked me to do is to maybe to present more the similarities and complementarities in between France and the Nordic region, and also some differences that need to be understood to do better business. So maybe I begin. Personally, I'm French-Swedish. I'm born in France, grown up in France, and I've been living 40 years in France, and now I've been living in Sweden 13 years. So I'm the owner and general manager of Scandi Bureau. We've been existing for 35 years, and it's my company since 30 years. So we've been helping for 30 years Nordic companies to develop in France. It's not only Swedish. We have about 40% Swedish companies, 25% Finnish, and 25% Danish. For the moment, we don't have any Norwegian, but we have had in the past. We are a team of 8 persons, and average we are about 10 persons. For the moment, a little bit less. And half of the team is French mother tongue, and half of the team is Nordic mother tongue. But everybody speaks at least one Nordic language and French. What I would like to, what I wanted is, yes, I have the possibility. Through all the different experiences I have had to help Nordic companies developing in France, I have set up or grouped all these kind of aspects that they have been facing when developing on the French market. So what I wanted to say, most of the Nordics, before coming to France, they are a little bit scared, and they have a lot of they look more at the differences, and instead of looking at the similarities and the complementarities. So that's a focus to, and those Nordic companies developing on the French market, they are staying, and most of them are successful on the French market. I would like to underline that Scandi Bureau, we mainly help small and middle-sized companies that are focused on very specific sectors, mostly B2B, and in the innovation sectors, medical devices, security, and different sectors, but most of our clients are middle-sized companies. Alors, what Sabrina wanted me to show this video because you have had some videos very serious, but this one is to help you to see how French people might see you. So don't be, they mostly like, or they appreciate a lot the Nordic region. back again. So what I wanted to explain is also that Scandi Bureau, what we do daily is that we help Nordic companies coming into the French market. From the beginning, the idea was that many Nordic companies had help from other partners to come to the French market, but they needed help to stay on the French market. So on a daily basis, we help with the sales development, customer support, admin, local identity, domiciliation, all kinds of local support services that help the middle-sized Nordic companies to stay on the French market. So there are a lot of common denominators and shared qualities between France and the Nordics. For example, what France and the Nordic have in common is a long-lasting partnerships. They don't want to have, it's not necessarily a one-shot business. It's really to build something strong and long relationships. And the importance of quality of the service, of the products, all these kind of quality aspects are very important. And the French, they have a very strong respect for the Nordic companies. They know that we Nordics, we have a really good reputation on the French market. So those two figures are the different information concerning the economy of those two regions. I wanted to underline the education. When you, as a Nordic company, come to France, it's important that French, they put a strong importance on the education. And so the diploma are as important as the experience. And it's something that the Nordics, you have to take into account when you discuss with French partners and French people, that the education is part of the criteria that they need to understand to work better. The trust in the as you in Nordic companies, you have the trust already in-house or built, and the French people, you have to build your trust, the trust with them. So you have to, and when you have gained the trust with the French companies, this trust is really a strong aspect in your collaboration and the success of your good business development with them. And I wanted to say that we have been, for example, have a French company that is selling garden accessories. And it took a long time to build this trust, but now when they have won it, they are developing really well on the French market. The management and the power distance is something that it's quite different, but you have to understand that this is an aspect that you have to take into consideration. In France, the manager is the one that has the answers. As you know, in Sweden, the manager is the one that knows who has the answers. So the manager in France has a quite different role. The manager is there to represent the company or to represent the team. It's much more on the first image that you have, and it's something that that you have to take into consideration. Then also the time, according to the French and the Nordics, the French are multitasking. And it's something that French people are very proud of. And it can be seen from a Nordic perspective that the multitasking is maybe a lack of organization. But it's something that French are used to be multitasking. And they can see sometimes that the Nordic way of being organized is a lack of maybe lack of interest, because the flexibility, the multitasking is seen as a flexibility. The working hours, if you have French, it's quite hard for French people to understand that the Nordics, they can begin to work very early in the morning and at 4 o'clock in the evening or Friday afternoon, they are not available. But it's something that when you have a local support in France, you have to take this into consideration, that it's something that is important to be more, to adapt to working hours. The change in France, French, they have the, it's quite normal that there is less change by anticipation as they can be in Sweden. French, they more, they change when something doesn't work anymore. But this has changed also during the pandemic. They have been much more positive to change by anticipation. So it's something that is seen much, it's more a Nordic vision now than it was before. The creativity in France, they are, it's something that they are both as creative as in the Nordics, but the environment to be more creative is something that they need to have a little bit more messy environment to be creative. So it's just same creativity, but in a different environment. The communication and language, the level of the competences in English of the French people, they are better than what the reputations they have. But French are quite complex by the level of English. That's why often they say they don't speak. But if you, as a Nordic, when you have a better English, if you speak maybe more slowly English, and then they won't feel that they are complex anymore, and so the communication works. It works much better than it was before. So it's more a reputation. Negotiation, something that is French in the business, they like to play and to have to test the limits, and they have to, this is something that is part of the game. When you come to France, you have to be prepared to negotiate and to be tested and to gain the trust and to gain the businesses. So it's something that very important to be prepared to develop, to come into this negotiation arena. The conflicts is, as I said, like the negotiation. The conflicts is, they see it as a way of testing your limits and to see how much they can trust you, and it's something that it's part of the scenario for the development of good business. This is some example with, of course, a Kry, who will be speaking with me afterwards. So there are a lot of Swedish companies in France that are big. I wanted to underline some Finnish companies also in France, because I know that there are some Finnish companies here today. So I wanted to say that, but they are less known than Swedish companies, but they are also a lot of, and they don't communicate as much as the Swedish that they are Finnish. I wanted to underline some of our current Nordic clients that we have, and I asked Polarbröd if I could name them today. And we have been helping Polarbröd with a sales development on the French market. We work hand in hand. So if you want afterwards, when you can come in contact with me, and I will give you some example of what we do for those companies on the French market. Most of them, we help them with a local identity. We help them to answer to tenders. We help them with customer support and customer success and customer and sales development. These are some of, you will have this slide afterwards, but these are some of the companies we have helped in the past. We have helped over 500 companies developing in France. So those are examples. And I wanted to underline the keywords for successful business and relationships. Relations, you really have to get a good personal relation with your partners in France. They need it to trust you. They need it to develop the business. And it's something that is really important. Confidence, don't forget that you have to build it, and it's not granted from the beginning. And this is something that it's very important to build. The flexibility, you can have the image of French for looking at the Nordic is that maybe there is a lack of flexibility. So it's important to show that you can adapt to the French market. And that the innovation is something that is a really strong common denominator in between France and the Nordics. So the common denominators, what I said, quality, innovation, long-lasting partnership, and mutual respect. And yeah, kiitos. Thank you, tack. And of course, you can you contact me, and I'm here to help you if you have some needs. Thank you, Sabrina.
Merci beaucoup, Charlotte. Really interesting to hear more about both the similarities and the differences between the French and the Nordic markets. And I encourage you, all the participants, to take contact directly to our experts, or if you are a company connected to Norrbotten, to connect to us at the Norrbotten Chamber of Commerce if you are in need of international business support, so we can see what kind of support is available in our chamber and how we can help with the French market together with our experts that are locally connected.
So Sabrina, I forgot to underline that I'm in the board of the French-Finnish Chamber of Commerce. I'm in the board of the French Chamber of Commerce in Sweden, and I have been appointed by the French government as a French foreign trade advisors, and it's locally for Sweden. So yeah, sorry, I forgot to underline this. Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you, Charlotte. And I would also like to, for you that want to learn more about the French language, we have Play in Sweden that has, for example, the series Fais pas ci, fais pas ça. If you would like to train your French, that's a good way to start, for example, in Sweden. But to go forward to our next speaker, I would like to present Fredrik Edström, that is the country manager of Livy France, that is the CRU in Sweden. And he will talk more about his experience in France in general, but also from the point of view of Livy.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Sabrina, and it was very interesting listening into Charlotte and Katarina and also Helene's introduction speak. So my name is Fredrik Edström. I am a senior manager. I am Swedish. I'm actually a mechanical engineer from Stockholm. I've done some studies in the US, but I fell in love with France very early on in my childhood. So I've been spending actually most of my life here in France. I'm right now sitting in Paris. And I think I've never worked elsewhere than in France. I've been working from France, always for different types of companies, American companies, French companies. I've kind of kept away from Swedish companies until now. And I will tell you a little bit about the story behind CRU and Livy. I think I have 15 minutes, right, Sabrina? I will try to make the best out of it. I actually threw in a couple of corporate slides, first of all, to give you a brief overview of our business. First of all, the CRU, as some of you might know in Sweden at least. And then we'll deep dive a little bit more into Livy, which is the brand name here in France. And then I'll give you some of my key takeaways or best practices. But actually, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun talking to Charlotte, and we have a lot in common, and I think we share a lot of the same values. So I guess a lot of my takeaways will be actually what you've already heard from Charlotte. But please stop me if I'm too long or if it's not clear. I'm trying to move through these slides pretty quickly. Again, these are corporate slides. So, and the figures also from last year. So a lot of things have been happening since. So first of all, for you who are not totally familiar with Kry, we are a med tech company, and we are today present in Sweden, which is our main market. But we're also in Norway, and we are in the UK, and we have a very strong position in France. We have been in some other countries, but we've been through a little bit what a lot of the tech companies went through a couple of years ago with a focus on the profitability, which was not our main focus. So then we had to actually to stop the international development in some other countries, like in Germany or in Spain or Italy. And we really had to focus on the countries where we already had a good foothold, France being one of them. I've only been here for like 3 months within Kry. Previously, I was working for a lot of different companies, but I also spent the last year working as a consultant. That's how I actually got to know Sabrina. So I don't know the whole story, but I can share with you what I have here. So in total, we're saying that we have been helping now 7 million patients all across the different markets. And last year we had total revenue of 200 million euros. This year we're going to make much more. We're increasing all the time. In Sweden, we see each other as having a 26% market share, which is a huge market share, and we are one of the main providers of what we call primary care. We're not doing heavy interventions. We're doing kind of the first aid to patients. In all across the markets, we have actually 5,000 clinicians, doctors that are all employed by us. They don't work full time in most cases. In most cases, they would work like maybe 20% of their time for us, but they have employment contracts with us. So Kry was launched in 2014 by Johannes Schilt, very nice guy. And the idea was to launch medical help on your phone. So the first app on the phone came out in 2015. Very quickly, he raised a lot of money and attacked a lot of different markets, and one of them was France in 2018. One of the topics was that what do we do with the brand? Kry sounds good in Swedish, but it doesn't really make any sense in English or in French. Cry doesn't sound very, very, very nice for medical help. So they decided to change that name in those countries, and we're called Livi, which doesn't really mean anything, but it's a nice brand. So in Sweden, we also opened up in 2019 some physical clinics, also in France, and in Norway in 2020. And in Sweden, Kry has been doing a lot of acquisitions, mainly on physical entities. So who do we work with? Well, first of all, we work with the national public payers, and we're going to come back to this because this is a big part of our business model. These are the guys actually paying for most of the interventions that we're doing. But we also work with partners like Novo Nordisk that I'm sure you've heard of. We work with a lot of the local and regional healthcare authorities like Region Stockholm, or here in Paris, all the public hospitals in Paris. We also work with B2B business. So we work a lot with a lot of these kind of health insurance companies. Some of them you might know, I'm sure you know of the Swedish ones at least. And then we also work with a lot of schools and institutions, of course, because we do have mainly clinicians working for us. Now, so what do we do? What is the business model? And so you have to remember now that it started in Sweden. So Sweden is kind of a couple of years ahead of us, the other guys, France, for instance. So what do we do? So we start when we start in a new market, we start with digital healthcare. So you download our app, or you can access our services on our website, and we will actually hook you up with one of our doctors, and you will be able to actually have your physical meeting with the doctor online pretty quickly. I think today there's a waiting time of maybe 30 minutes at the most here in Paris. And that's how we start to build our business. We start to build like a big funnel of digital healthcare. The second step, where we are now in France a little bit, and we're starting also in Norway, is to open up physical healthcare. So there we actually have physical clinics, and in Sweden we have 60 physical clinics now. In France we have 2, and I think in Norway we have 1 or 2. And the idea is to actually start to build a universe where we can actually shift patients between digital healthcare and physical healthcare. Most of the time we can help you digitally, but sometimes you really need to see physically a doctor. And therefore, the idea is to build this universe where we can mix the two of them and take out the best parts of each one of them. The third stage, where we're not in France yet, but where Sweden is doing a great job, actually we're starting in France, is to build kind of physical journeys for the patients. And we can take obesity, for instance, as an example, or we can take cancer or those type of diseases. Then we'll sign you up, and then we'll have you, we'll bring you on a journey where we will mix meetings digitally and physically, and we would also maybe send you over to some other specialists where we can actually give you very specific treatments from our specialists as well. And the last part, where we're not really yet, is to actually start to move ahead. I talked about primary care, and the next step is, of course, after primary care, is secondary care, where we actually get into and start to make interventions. We don't do that yet. But that's probably going to come up in a couple of years. So France. So since launch, we have accumulated 1.5 million consultations. So as I said, we have 2 physical units, and we have here in Paris, or not in Paris, in France, we have a little bit more than 500 clinicians working for us. We're getting close to actually 600. Most of the patients are coming back to us, which is a good thing. That means that it works very well. And when we look at the patient satisfaction, they're super satisfied. And that's also what I hear when I talk to people and talk to my friends who have been using Levy as their application. We also have specialized verticals also in France now. As I said, obesity, cancer, women's health, a lot of these different specialties. There's a big difference, though, on the market. In Sweden, actually, we get paid by the public payer just for you being signed up at a facility. Whereas in France, we're getting paid per act. So every meeting actually generates a fee paid out by the public payer, most of it. And some of it needs to be paid out by the patient itself. And that's a big difference. In both cases, it's the public payer. But in Sweden, it's more like public payer will pay us like a subscription for you being signed up to a clinic, whereas in France we're getting paid by consultation. Just to give you some figures, I'm not going to be talking too much about this, but so in France we generated last year 27 million euros of revenue, and this year we're going to actually maybe not double that, but we're going to heavily increase that. So I think we're going to add on another 10 million onto that one. So we're getting close to 40 million in terms of revenue. And it's a great progress, and we're making progresses every day. And if I look at the meeting volumes, it's just spiking. And today, I think we're making more digital meetings in France than we are doing in Sweden. And this is just going to be continuing because there is a great need out there on the market. So today, to give you also some figures there, I think we make more than 100,000 consultations per month in France. So enough of the figures. And I think my 15 minutes are running out very quickly. So I'm just going to give you very quickly some of my takeaways from France, being a Swede in France, and I've been here for a very long time. So first of all, France is a country where there's a lot of people saying that will never work. I don't know why. It's kind of a pessimistic country sometimes when you talk to people. But you should just fight those don'ts, of course, because there are great opportunities here. The other topic, which Charlotte also touched on, is the no. Of course, you're going to get a lot of no's, but no in France is not a no like in most Scandinavian countries. A no in France is more to be interpreted as an invitation for a discussion or a negotiation. So it's just the start out for something. Whereas in Sweden, I get the impression that whenever I get a no and start to negotiate or discuss, people look at me kind of like, come on, guy, why are you talking about this? It's a no is a no. But a no in France is not a no. Also, very important is to build a kind of a local relay for all of kind of different reasons. And when I talk to foreign companies, they always tell me like, well, you know, French labor law is super complex and it's so hard to fire people and blah, blah, blah. But that's wrong. It's super easy. You can hire as you want. You can fire nearly like in any other countries. It's not that difficult. And I think Macron has brought a lot of good things to change that. So you're pretty flexible today to actually do whatever you want to do in order to adapt your workforce. One of the problems in France, though, is the language barrier. You would think that, you know, young guys coming out from schools, they all speak English, but the problem is they don't, or they will tell you they do, but honestly, they don't. It's a very tricky hurdle there, and that's also the reason why you need to have, I guess, people here that you can work with and you can trust and you can learn to understand their accent. So get yourself a physical relay in place. Again, for all, you know, different reasons, but also like if you look at Paris, and I think Katarina talked about this as well. The Paris region is 12 million people here, so it's pretty easy and it's a cool place to get around, and you get a lot of contacts, and a lot of the discussions are being done like physically instead of, you know, hooking up on a video meeting. You would actually hook up on a coffee in a cafe somewhere, and you will actually do a lot of talking. To create this trust on, you know, locally. Again, Finland and Sweden, Norway is, sorry, I forgot Norway here, but of course, all these Scandinavian countries, Denmark too, are have super images, great brands, and they're real assets just by the fact that you are, or your company or your products are from these different countries. Other countries that have more difficult times are Brits, who are kind of unreliable. You never trust Brits if you're French, right, Charlotte? And, you know, Americans, you know, ignorant, the best maybe, or arrogant. But, you know, they don't have as easy way around like we do, we Scandinavians. And again, France is very much battling to attract new investments. We saw on the slides there from Katarina. There are great subsidies and a lot of things to be done here. So I think that's it. I was really quick here. Am I good?
You're good, Fredrik. Merci beaucoup. Really interesting, even from your part, and also hear about the experiences from the company point of view, so to say.
Yeah, I would just say, like, if you again, I'm working for Kry and I'm very happy here. But listen, if you have any need to have someone to talk to or discuss, of course you should turn yourself to Sabrina and Helene. But, you know, feel free to go through them and get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to share, you know, my contacts, and I'm always available for coffee, ideally in Paris, but otherwise, you know, a video call or a telephone call.
Thank you. And just to round up, I would like to invite my colleague Helen back to the stage. And I know that Fredrik has also a time to attend to your next meeting, so we will not talk that long at the end, but still nice to hear a little bit more about the reflections and takeaways from today.
Yes, do we still have Katarina and Charlotte with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
So I'll start with you, Katarina. Do you have any, like, what's the most important takeaway for companies seeking to expand to the French market? If you could say just one thing.
Yeah, I think we point out that local presence is really important to develop business in France, and relationship, yeah, to gain confidence, yeah, of course, and trust. That's a main key. And I also would like to say that culture differences in management and leadership is also important, because there are differences, but you just need to know them. It's not like doing business with Asian people, for example, because the differences are much more tangible and you can see them in the body language and in the physical aspects. But here in Europe, it's more different to see differences between Swedes and French. We share the same values, but there are differences in our kind of communication and to express ourselves. So that's really important to know this. And yeah, but I mean, the potential is huge for Swedish companies on the French market, and especially to have in mind also to, I mean, use the Swedish brand and the Swedish identity, because the associations to the Swedish values and the brand Sweden are really strong in France, especially when it comes to, I mean, engagements from Swedish companies, societal engagements, and social and corporate responsibility, for example. So that's also important to have in mind, I think, and to use that added value, in fact.
Thank you, Katarina. Charlotte, do you want to add something? Do you have one thing, key takeaway?
Yes, a lot like Katarina said, and Fredrik also, that there is a very positive vision in France of the Nordic countries and the Nordic industries, the Nordic businesses. So they very strong respect for the Nordics, and also that it's important to have a local identity and local stuff, and French speaking that shows that you are investing on a long-term relations.
Excellent, thank you. Fredrik, are you with us still?
Yeah, sure. I'm
such a good slide with takeaways, so I figured that maybe I'll ask you about a faux pas, or like if you have an anecdote of some of the things that we talked about that you might want to share with us.
So, yeah, maybe, but you know, the image I have that just came in mind, like listening to you guys, is like you have this very attractive person sitting over there, woman or a man or whatever your choice, but the person is not aware of his or her attractiveness. And when you walk up to her or him, you will find, you know, it's going to be super interesting. And I think France, of course, you have a lot of super interesting companies like LVMH, very successful car manufacturers. You know, you're not going to walk up to them. They are aware of who they are and what they can do, etc. But there's so many kind of middle-sized or smaller companies, a little bit shy. They are probably doing very well in France. They don't speak very good English. They would like to go, you know, outside France, but they don't. They never had the opportunity. And when you walk up to them and you tell them, listen, I looked at your product, it looks so interesting. They're so happy talking to you, and there's, you know, so much business to be made. But it comes back to it's a people business, right? You need to kind of actually come here, talk to people, get in touch with people, get the contacts going, get the discussions going, and that's how you make business.
Thank you. We haven't had any comments or questions from the audience. Sabrina, do you have any reflections that you want to share before we?
What I was reflecting when I was hearing about your key takeaways from all of you three was that there's a lot of similarities also with the northern parts of Sweden and Norrbotten, and also the Arctic Europe area, that we all like to build long relationships and cooperate and find these ways to connect, and also have the local presence to be there and show that you really are committed to to the trade relationships, so to say. I think that's a really good match, especially for us and for our companies from the northern part, that we should engage more and actually appreciate even more when we create these connections to the French market.
Yes, excellent. So I think that we're going to start rounding off. Know that there are subtle cultural differences, especially when it comes to management styles and how business life works in general. Have a local presence is something that we said. Yeah, and if you want to know more, please feel free to reach out to me or Sabrina. Thank you to those participating, and also a big thank you to our speakers. I hope that you all have learned something new today. I sure did. As I said earlier, it will be recorded and published on our website. Be sure not to miss upcoming Trade Talks. We at Norrbotten Chamber of Commerce will host Trade Talks Spain on November 28th, but there's also a number of upcoming ones in September, October, November, and I think maybe December also.
Yes.
If you want to know more about the internationalization business support, please feel free to reach out to me or Sabrina. And once again, I'd like to just say thank you to all of you, both our speakers and those of you watching online.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank
Au revoir.
Thank you very much.
Merci, thank you, tack.
Bye.
Tack så mycket.
Bye.